Don't panic. But the banana in your kitchen right now is radioactive. Not maybe, not in theory. Actually, measurably, scientifically radioactive. And once you find out why, you're going to start looking at a lot of normal things very differently. Your kitchen, your body, even the air around you. This is one of those facts that sounds like a joke, until you realize it's completely true. Let's open this up. Okay, first things first. This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's not radiation from pollution or pesticides or some banana-based government cover-up. It's natural. It's been there the whole time, in every banana, ever. Scientists even have a unit for this. It's called the banana equivalent dose. It's a fun, informal way physicists use to compare small amounts of radiation exposure to something every day. Instead of using complicated scientific units that mean nothing to most people. That's how reliably radioactive bananas are. They're basically the unofficial mascot for a tiny, harmless dose of nuclear stuff. So, why? What's actually going on inside this fruit? Bananas are loaded with potassium. That's why your gym teacher told you to eat one before cramping up. But here's the part nobody mentions. A small percentage of all potassium on Earth, roughly 1 in every 8,500 atoms, is a radioactive version called potassium-40. It's not man-made. It's not new. Potassium-40 has existed since before the Earth formed. It was already radioactive when dinosaurs were alive. It'll still be radioactive long after we're gone. It has a half-life of over 1 billion years. So every banana, because it's stuffed with potassium, carries a few of these radioactive atoms inside it. That's it. That's the secret. A fruit, doing what fruits do, accidentally smuggling ancient cosmic radiation onto your kitchen counter. But here's where it gets weird. If potassium makes something radioactive, and your body is full of potassium, yeah, you're radioactive right now, as we speak. Your muscles, your nerves, your heartbeat, they all run on potassium, which means your body contains roughly the same kind of radioactive atoms as the banana you're picturing right now. In fact, an average adult experiences around 4,000 radioactive decays per second from potassium-40 alone. Every second, non-stop. For your entire life, you've been faintly nuclear since the day you were born. Somewhere out there, a smoke detector is judging you and it doesn't even know why. Here's a true story that sounds completely made up. Shipping ports around the world use radiation detectors to scan incoming cargo containers. They're checking for smuggled nuclear material. And bananas keep setting them off. Massive shipments of bananas contain just enough potassium-40 to trigger sensitive radiation alarms. Alarms designed to catch actual nuclear threats. Port security teams have had to learn the difference between this is a genuine threat and this is just a very large quantity of fruit. It's become common enough that customs agencies actually train staff to recognize the banana radiation signature. A fruit bowl, scaled up enough, can look like a security concern. That should tell you something about how seriously we take the word radioactive, even when the source is this harmless. Which raises a question. Where did this fear of radiation even come from in the first place? The story of radiation actually starts with a complete accident. In 1896, a French scientist named Henri Becquerel left a uranium sample in a drawer, sitting on top of an unused photographic plate, wrapped in dark paper. When he developed that plate later, expecting nothing, he found a perfect image of the uranium sample burned into it, as if light had passed straight through solid material in the dark. That accident was the first evidence that some elements give off invisible energy on their own, without any outside light source at all. A young scientist named Marie Curie picked up where Becquerel left off. She coined the very word radioactivity and went on to discover two brand new elements, polonium and radium, both glowing faintly with this strange invisible energy. Here's the part that still gives scientists chills today. Curie handled these radioactive materials constantly with no protective equipment because nobody yet understood the danger. Her old lab notebooks are so contaminated that over a century later, they're still kept in lead-lined boxes in Paris. And anyone who wants to view them has to sign a waiver and wear protective gear. The woman who discovered radioactivity left behind notebooks too radioactive to casually flip through even today. Now, here's where the mystery widens, because bananas and humans are nowhere near the top of the surprisingly radioactive list. Brazil nuts are one of the most naturally radioactive common foods on Earth. Their roots grow incredibly deep and are unusually good at pulling up natural radium from the soil. That means a handful of Brazil nuts can contain significantly more radioactivity than a banana. By some measurements, well over 100 times more. Granite countertops? Mildly radioactive to it's just baked into the stone. Old glow-in-the-dark watch dials from the 1950s? Properly radioactive. Some were painted with actual radium. Even bricks can carry faint traces of uranium and thorium from the clay they're made from. And here's one more for the list. Certain clay-based cat litters. They're made from a mineral called bentonite, which can naturally contain trace radioactive elements. It's harmless in normal use, but it's strange enough that it's actually been mistaken for radioactive contamination during sensitive equipment testing. So between the countertop, the wall, the litter box, and a handful of Brazil nuts, your home is quietly more radioactive than the banana ever was. If your kitchen has this much going on, you might be wondering what the most radioactive places on the entire planet actually look like. There's a small coastal city in Iran called Ramsar, where natural hot springs have pulled radium up from deep underground for centuries. Some neighborhoods there have background radiation levels dozens of times higher than the global average, and people have lived there normally for generations without any officially confirmed difference in long-term health outcomes. Scientists still study the area today because it doesn't fit the simple, more radiation always equals more harm assumption people expect. Then, there's a beach in Brazil called Guarapari, where the sand itself is unusually rich in thorium, giving it a measurable radioactive signature, earning it the nickname the radioactive beach, even as tourists sunbathe on it every year. And of course, there are the places radiation actually did cause serious harm. Chernobyl and Fukushima, both now surrounded by exclusion zones where radiation levels remain elevated enough that long-term human habitation still isn't considered safe. The difference between fascinating natural curiosity and uninhabitable disaster zone often comes down to one thing: dose. Radiation isn't simply present or absent. It exists on a scale, and where you land on that scale changes everything. Short answer, no. To get a harmful dose from a potassium 40, you need to eat millions of bananas at once. Your body won't even let you get close. Here's why. Your kidneys constantly regulate potassium. Eat more, absorb more, flush out the extra. Your internal potassium level barely budges, no matter how many bananas you throw at it. So your body has built-in radiation control. It just thinks it's doing normal kidney stuff. You will never radiation poison yourself with a fruit bowl. A bad stomach ache? Maybe. Radiation sickness? Not a chance. Let's put this in real perspective, because bananas are actually one of the smallest radiation sources in your daily life. A single dental x-ray exposes you to roughly the same radiation as eating 50 bananas. A coast-to-coast flight gives you more radiation than a whole bunch of bananas combined, just from flying higher, closer to cosmic rays. Pilots and flight crews actually receive more occupational radiation exposure on average than nuclear power plant workers, simply from spending so much time at altitude. Astronauts have it even more extreme. Outside the protection of Earth's atmosphere, astronauts on long missions absorb significantly more radiation than anyone in the ground. One of the biggest challenges of long-term space travel. And here on Earth, the single largest source of natural background radiation for most people isn't bananas or Brazil nuts or granite countertops. It's radon, an invisible, odorless gas that seeps up from the ground and can build up inside basements and homes. Bananas were never the radiation problem. They were just the one with a funny name. Here's the bigger reveal hiding underneath all of this. We grow up thinking radioactive means danger, meltdowns, warning signs, hazmat suits. But background radiation is everywhere. It's in your food, it's in your body, it's in the ground beneath your feet, the rocks holding your house up, even the air you're breathing right now. Earth has been radioactive since long before life existed. Every living thing on this planet, plants, animals, you, has spent its entire existence soaking in a constant, gentle hum of natural radiation. And here's the number that puts it all in perspective. The average person absorbs around 3 millisieverts of background radiation every single year, just from existing. To get that same dose from bananas alone, you'd have to eat roughly 30,000 of them. You're already getting 30,000 bananas worth of radiation a year, just by living on Earth. You just never noticed because none of it ever hurt you. The banana was never the exception. It was the one time the radiation came with a peel. So, bananas are radioactive. True. You're radioactive too. Also true. Brazil nuts beat them both. Also true. Even your cat's litter box might be quietly winning this competition. And every single year, just by being alive on this planet, you soak up the radiation equivalent of 30,000 bananas and walk away completely fine. So next time someone tells you bananas are dangerous because they're radioactive, just remind them. So is everything else, and so are they. If this blew your mind, you'll want to see what happens if you fall into a black hole. Subscribe, because next time things get a lot weirder.